radiation oncologist here, and also an associate professor at Dalhousie, and he's going to be speaking this evening on the mind, body, and spirit connection as it relates to the pancreatic cancer journey. So
Yeah,
I'll turn it over to you,
perfect.
Dr. Rutledge.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. There's a need, right? So many thousands of people diagnosed in the world, and pancreatic cancer has specific issues, and that's what I'm really going to address this evening, is that you really can make a difference on the journey by the things that you do to empower yourself. So I want to look at the specifics of kind of pancreatic cancer and the mind-body connection and why the two overlap specifically, right? Because you think about it, you think about the, yeah, please let me in, she says. Yeah, you think about it, and there's really kind of two things. One is the treatments can be hard to get through, right? And so you need to kind of empower your body. You need to strengthen your body in order to go into the treatment, and definitely the recovery phase as well. What are the things that you need to do to kind of empower yourself from that side of it as well? So the two together are really, really important. The kind of the recovery phase of the treatment. And secondly, one of the kind of the main principles that we talk about in the Skills for Healing Weekend retreats is the idea of mindfulness. Paying attention to what's happening in your life, paying attention to what's happening in your body. And I imagine for a lot of people who've been through pancreatic treatment, they have to really pay attention to the food and food issues and what works. How do they feel stronger? What are the foods that work, don't upset the GI system, right? That's mindfulness. You do it automatically when you're forced into it. You can bring that same issue of mindfulness right into your life, right into your physical life, psychological life, spiritual life, right? So those are the main principles here. I want to try to modify this to the pancreatic world. So that's my introduction. Now, the other thing I like to do right at the start of the talks is actually spend a few minutes doing a very safe and easy kind of visualization or relaxation. So if you can join me if you want to or not. It's just follow along if you want to. So I'm going to just teach you a little bit about kind of relaxing. First thing is bring yourself off the back of the chair so you're not leaning there. And then feet flat on the ground, your hands on your knees, however you like. And then it's this feeling of having that strong spine. And how you can get there is you can lean forward, and then when you come back, put that little curve in your lower back, and just feel like you're being drawn up towards the sky, the top of your head there. And if you can get to that place of balance, it's a key concept in all of our lives. You get that place of balance. And there's not a whole bunch of muscle that needs to be used. You're kind of balancing on your backbone. And you can get that feeling of being, it's like being noble. Like, I'm here, this is how I feel. And you feel that strength and nobility within yourself. And if you can bring your attention to your body, you can feel the strength of your backbone, your solidity, your proactivity. And at the same time, it's the opening of your chest, the softness of your heart. It's that feeling of compassion that you have. You have both of those aspects within your spirit, within your body. Now we're just going to bring our attentions to the physical sensations of being here and now. You don't have to change anything. Just bring your attention into your body. You're bringing your consciousness into your body. Bringing that life force energy into your body, right? By focusing. Focus on your feet. Your connection to the floor here. Sense of being grounded. The weight of the hands on your knees, the weight of your sitting bones in the chair. Allow yourself to be here. Allow your mind to rest. And just give yourself just a bit of a break right now. Now bringing your attention to the breath. Be very curious about your breathing. What are you noticing? Without having to label it, without having to think about it, simply watch in your mind's eye. What is the sensation of breathing? What does it feel like? How do you experience it? It can also bring a sense of gratitude for the breath. You might notice that your abdomen is rising and falling. You might notice the feeling of the air going through your nose and the upper airways. Now imagine that you could breathe in a sense of calm, sense of peace, sense of quiet, right into your lungs, right into your heart. So on the in-breath, breathe in that sense of calm and peace. And on the out-breath, relax. Just release and let it go. Clear your mind. Breathing in peace and love and a sense of joy right into your body, right into your heart. And out breath. Just relax, release, smoothen, soften. Breathing calm. And on the out breath, relax. Now imagine that you could warm up your heart with a sense of compassion. Just imagine that in the middle of your chest, you're bringing that sense of peace and love and caring, deep caring right into your heart. And if you need to, you can bring to mind the image of a loved one or little child or grandchild, little baby. Maybe some other time in your life when you felt deeply connected to someone. Just imagine that so that your heart begins to warm. And your chest is like warming up like the element on the stove, that kind of golden orange, or maybe it's the color of the sun, the sunlight beginning to warm in the middle of your chest. The sun coming over the horizon in the morning, that first ray of light radiating from your heart, from this sense of peace and calm and love. And it generates more and more light, and the light begins to shine in the middle of your chest. And it's radiating outwards and washing over every cell in your body. Just that sense of love and calm and peace. The center of your chest being warmed, spilling everywhere, shining everywhere. And imagine that you could send that loving energy to your body, just like directing it towards some issue, some element, some part of your body that needs healing. Send that loving energy there. Imagine that you could send that loving energy into your psyche, or maybe even some psychological problem. Just send that sense of peace toward yourself. You just love and accept myself as I am right now. And extend that again to somebody in your life who may need healing in some sense or form. Just set that aspiration from your heart, like a silent prayer towards them, saying, may they find their way, may they find healing in body, mind, and spirit. Whatever's right for them. You extend that same sense of love and kindness to everybody here in this room. May they find blessings and peace and healing on their journey. And then beyond to anybody who's been affected by a pancreatic cancer diagnosis. in your mind's eye, just send your heartful love and healing peace to them. They find exactly what they need. Lovely. Okay, now release the visualization. And we're just going to clear our mind. We're going to relax and just let that good intentions fix at a distance. But we're going to clear ourselves by coming back to our bodies and the sensation of the body connected with the floor. And our breath. In breath, out breath. Lovely, yeah. Imagine that on the out-breath, you can just release your mind into the space. Connect with our body and our wonderful human heart and the wonderful tears that can come with that. Just release there, and you can bring your attention back to here and now. So thank you very much. Wow, lovely group. It's a great space, actually, for the number of people that we have here. So, yeah. Thanks for bringing your tears up. I just really appreciate that, however that is. So, whatever's happening there. Just to be ourselves. I think that's part of the healing journey, is actually just to be oneself. Because I think as humans, we're kind of constantly grasping, trying to change, control. And just to be here and now is the human experience. And that creates the space of healing, to accept and love oneself as we are right now. Okay, so we did what? Maybe 5-minute exercise? If we measure your blood pressure before and after, your heart rate, the tension in your muscles, your brain waves, how your brain works, it would all have changed. I think everybody here had what they call a relaxation response. Right? So they actually change your physiology, change the chemistry. Because really, there are kind of two states, two kind of major states. You can feel stressed, anxious, upset, flustered, scared, beyond oneself. And that sets a certain chemical pathway in process. It actually releases the hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, actually kind of eats away at the tissue. It's really hard to heal when we're feeling stressed and anxious and out of our tree all the time, right? And yet what I saw was, and what I felt was, that we actually relaxed our body. And so it's actually a different part of your brain that gets activated when you practice relaxation. And I didn't believe this till a few years ago, but your brain actually grows new brain cells. I thought it was permanent. I knew for certain that you keep on putting down new connections between the brain cells. So either you feel stressed and anxious and upset, and your brain gets very good at doing that. It puts down a certain pathway there. Or you actually practice relaxation, live in a peaceful state, and then you'll actually set down a different set of pathways. And when this one gets stronger, you lose the pathways to the stress response. The bottom line is that your brain continues to change throughout your lifetime. It's malleable. It's what they call neuroplasticity. And it's really interesting for me to watch this, because when I first started, almost 25 years ago, there was very little scientific data to kind of prove what we kind of know intuitively. The grandmotherhood stuff actually makes a difference in your life. But then there wasn't the data. Now in the last 4, 5, 10 years, whatever, they do the brain science to actually say you change the pathways in your brain. You can get very good at just being able to see those thoughts come up and say, I'm not going to buy into this fear pattern. I'm going to settle myself down. I'm going to live my life from a state of peace. Right? So by practicing this, by practicing relaxation, by talking about the things that I'm going to talk about this evening, you actually change your brain physiology, change how you feel, change your happiness level. I guess that's probably a meta message, is that you can actually do something to really improve your life, to really feel different and feel happier. So we can actually do something. Now I'm also going to kind of talk about the practical things that you can do to empower yourself. So talk about the medical system, talk about your body and how you can empower your body, talk about the mind and how you can work with difficult emotions and stress and so on. Talk a little bit of spirituality from a very kind of secular perspective. So that's what I want to do as a kind of an overview for this talk. So, and then I'm going to share a few stories, I think, as well with time. The first thing is that I believe in what they call integrative medicine. And that is essentially getting the best possible care from the medical system and combining that with everything else you can do to empower yourself, right? And unfortunately, the medical system doesn't teach this side very well. So you have to kind of advocate and be smart about this. That's why it's very powerful to be in support group, because you actually learn all this, including bringing in the fabulous speakers that we've been talking about, the surgeons and chemo guys, radiation guys. I mean, this is extremely important. It's the kind of scientifically proven stuff. I totally endorse this. But the medical system doesn't do as good a job saying these are the other things you can actually do to make a difference, to empower your body to get through this. So I want to kind of focus here, even though I believe the combination of the two is the strongest combination. So it's probably about a half an hour talk just by itself to talk about how to negotiate the medical system. I want to go over a few principles around that one. So the first thing you need to do, I think, is to get information, to get understanding, right? To understand what pancreatic cancer is, what the treatment options are, what's happening, so that you can feel, in a sense, a greater sense of control. So for instance, the analogy is, if you're in the back of a plane and you're about to take off and you're rumbling down the runway and you seem to rumble for a long time, it gets pretty anxious there because you don't think the plane's going to actually take off. So that's one perspective. The other perspective is actually being in the control tower, watching the plane take off. And you see that the plane's accelerating, it's getting faster and faster. By about the halfway point in the runway, it takes off. So that's the difference between going into your appointments, kind of understanding the language, and being able to really kind of figure it out and feel empowered and feeling a sense of at least some control, and not knowing what's going on. So information is power in that. And I'd say no matter what advice I give to you around the medical system, is always find the expert. So who is the information expert? I'd actually say it's the librarian, or the Canadian Cancer Society has an excellent service. So it's cancer.ca is the website, or 1-888-939-3333. It's an excellent information service. So the Canadian Cancer Society will send you information that's tailored to your needs in the language that makes sense to you. So information is really super important. Preparing for it. You want to be able to understand the language so that when you're sitting down with your doctor and nurse, it makes sense. Yes, the doctor and nurse is going to individualize this and put it in context for your case and give you the kind of ins and outs, pros and cons of everything, but at least to have that information there. So that's the first thing, is to get the information. The second thing is to actually prepare for the visits, to actually go in knowing what your questions are, having your symptoms, your meds, your allergies, having your story clear, having to know in your own mind what's there, and having a strategy, bringing somebody along, because a lot of people are super stressed out going in to talk with their docs. And when you're feeling stressed, it's hard to concentrate. That's what happens in the kind of the stress response. So preparing for it, at the conversation, being open and honest. The other perspective is loving yourself, advocating for yourself, believing in yourself. The medical system is there to serve you. You are the most important person in the room, not your physician. That's the truth. Don't worry about your physician's ego and how much time they have and stuff like that. Your health is what's most important. Now, you want to be smart about it. Get your questions answered. So, that's why you write down your questions, so that at the end of the appointment, if the doctor hasn't covered things, you actually go through your questions. That is, what's the meta message? What are you saying to your body, but in your spirit, when you say, I'm so worth it that I'm going to actually get my questions answered. Or I'm so worth it I'm coming to a support group, right, to empower myself. That is sending a very, very powerful message to yourself about healing and wholeness. And if there's a stress physiology, like anxious physiology, and there's a kind of relaxation physiology, there's also a will to live physiology, right? It's a very complicated system. When you're engaged, when you find purpose in life, when you're happy, when you're doing things that matter, when you're connecting with relationships, you're actually sending a whole bunch of hormones right through your system saying, I want to live. I want to get better. I want to survive. I want to do what's right for me, right? That's the physiology. It's beyond stress and relaxation. It's about, physiology of love. It's about the physiology of passion for life and wanting to live life. And your body will respond when you're in that space. You'll be stronger than you would have been otherwise. So, okay, so back to medical system, preparing for the appointments, having the attitude that you're the most important one there, that you're willing to take care of yourself. It's that loving attitude towards yourself that will allow you to choose the right things. And then it's kind of like, really what you're trying to figure out is, how can I get the best care possible? And so understanding the medical system, realizing that there's a whole bunch of other specialists, subspecialists, experts within the system. So for you guys, number one would probably be a nutritionist, would be the sub-expert, right? But there's also other people, psychologist, could be a rehab person, sleep specialist. There could be all these other people who could help empower you. Your physician, me included, won't necessarily remember that there's this 10 other experts that I could refer you to, right? And so lest you say, geez, I mean, my gut's not working quite well, I've lost some weight recently, can I not see a nutritionist? The doc might forget to actually refer you there, right? Or I'm really upset, I'm having trouble working with my family. Maybe I need to chat with somebody. Again, that's smart. That's sending a message of, I want to take care of myself, right? So there's the experts there. And it's the attitude of caring for yourself. So again, the question is, how can I get the best care possible? And it's not by disenchanting your team by being so pestering and annoying, right? Because that can happen. But you want to advocate for yourself in a way that's effective. It's like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but as a guy said in our support group, squeak gently and persistently, right? So kind of the phone calls, be polite about it, but persistent to get the care that you deserve, right? Because it's your health that's the most important thing. That is just the truth. Second opinion, how to get a second opinion. It's hard to do in the pancreatic world because it's like so few subspecialists like surgeons or med-oncs and so on. But if you have that opportunity, then how do you do it? If you're not getting along with the person, two things you can do. One is bring in a family member or friend who can help kind of negotiate and chat with you and get the information and so on. Or if it's really just not, there's no respect there, then ask either your family doctor to make a referral to a second specialist, or ask the nurse of the doctor who's working with you, no, I'm not getting along, can I not see somebody else? Usually the docs work with at least one nurse, and the nurses are great. They really are. They know 99+% of the information. If they don't know it, they're smart enough to ask the doc to phone you or clarify and so on. So developing that relationship is really important too. So there's more to it, but you'll learn this. You learn the kind of the language of the medical system. It reminds me of Carol Shields wrote of her journey with advanced breast cancer. She basically said, getting this diagnosis was like waking up in a train in the middle of the night, traveling in a foreign land, in the middle of a stormy night in a foreign land, where everybody else speaks a different language, right? And it's that feeling of kind of not understanding what's happening, and so therefore kind of advocating and educating and empowering yourself in order to be able to get the best care possible. Okay, so that's medical side. Continue to network, continue to ask your questions, continue to ask each other, how are you doing it? Get your own file. Like you should have I don't know, you should or shouldn't, it's your decision. A lot of people will get their own file of their medical records because the medical system will occasionally misplace or lose reports. And if you have your file there and you're in an office, you can say, well, here it is, then the doc or nurse can take a quick photocopy. It's good communication to have your own file, the information there. Okay, so that's medical side. Now, body, mind, and spirit, it's an artificial division, because when you take care of one, you're taking care of all, is really it. So number one thing I'd say, number one thing I'd say in terms of empowering your body is exercise, exercise, exercise. Yes, it's hard at times. Yes, if nutrition is down, it can be an issue as well. But in order to increase energy, in order to increase quality of life, your mood, the quality of your sleep, everything actually, you can change your physiology, change your brain chemistry. It's like you release the happy hormones when you exercise. And what are the elements of exercise? What do you have to do to exercise? It's about 30 minutes minimum. It's okay, not to worry. It's about 30 minutes minimum, getting your heart rate up. It's like being short of breath to the point of like I'm late for an appointment. So it's like, it's not just walking the dog, it's like a good brisk walk is the minimum. Do something that's fun. You know, exercise is a very, very powerful way. Now it's a prostate cancer example, but I say that because I was just passed by our university gym, and I was there and I saw one of my 81-year-old patients. The guy was, treated him 3 years ago. He was about to start a more aggressive therapy. He said to me, what do I need to do in order to empower myself, to get through this tough therapy that I was going into? And I said to him, you should exercise. It's the number one thing. He was still running his own business at this time, at 78. And he decided to go to the gym. He started to work out. He was getting himself strengthened. He was going there about 3 times a week, starting to make friends who were like 40 and 50 years younger than him, chatting with the girls that run the gym and all this stuff. And he said on the days where he worked out, it was as if when he was doing his exercises, he was pushing blood and oxygen right into his brain. So and he felt like those days when he exercised, when he went to work, he was actually crisper of mind. He was clearer, he was stronger, he was feeling better. Another woman from the breast cancer world came up to me a year after I'd given a talk and said, the only thing I remember from your talk is exercise, 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 which is great. She remembered something, right? And she said that after that, she took up dragon boat racing. And she said the day after dragon boat racing, she really felt happy. It's like she had this extra energy, zip, and vitality. She also found out if she worked too hard, she would tire herself out. So again, listening to one's body. But exercise is number one. Number two in your world, you probably understand very well, is nutrition, right? And so talk to the expert, but essentially the idea is to decrease the fat in one's diet and increase the fruits and vegetables that contain the antioxidants. In Canada and almost everywhere else, we need vitamin D, 1,000 international units a day, at least 10 months a year because we don't get enough of it. And I believe in kind of a more balanced diet. Probably plant-based is better, but you want to get kind of micronutrients from multiple groups from healthy foods. And ultimately listen to your body. In what circumstances do you need which foods? Like, you know, summertime we get too sweaty, sometimes you want something a little bit more salty, you need more fluids. That's the obvious example. But really you can extend that sense of mindfulness right into your lives. What is it that your body wants? Number three, which isn't much more of a problem for you maybe, is maintaining a reasonable weight, right? And those three, think about it this way. If your cancer developed in a certain kind of microenvironment, you actually want to change that soup right now, right? So it took 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years to grow. Now you want to change the soup. And how do you change the soup? Exercise, diet, maintaining a reasonable weight. The things that contribute to cancer, the molecules that kind of cause the damage to contribute to cancer, you don't want that same process. You don't want the same damage occurring after you get a cancer diagnosis, because if there are cancer cells left over, you don't want those cancer cells to get even more abnormal or aggressive, right? So the things that are good for prevention are things that are good for people who've had a diagnosis. It kind of makes sense there. Number 4 thing on my list of things that you can do to empower the body is get a good night's sleep. Now, it's hard to do, right? You can't force oneself to sleep, but there's something called sleep hygiene, kind of all the habits that contribute to feeling better. Like so getting that routine down, taking away the stimulants before you go to bed. Again, that's something that you can learn. You can actually talk to a sleep expert around that. Now, an interesting one is that you should keep in the dark, essentially at nighttime, because even 90 seconds of bright light can suppress melatonin. Now, I know it's related to breast cancer, but essentially, if you're taking care of your body, getting a good night's sleep in the dark, then you're releasing the hormones that can nurture your system and stop, kind of perturbing the abnormal systems. So number 4, stay in the dark. So night band, don't turn on the light is the kind of way to go at that. And number 5, we already practiced a little bit of, which is relaxation and changing the physiology, getting yourself into a relaxed space so your body can heal. The natural healing energy that your body has can actually heal itself. So that is that. Let's just actually take a 3 or 4 minute break to do an exercise together around relaxation. So I'm going to change this over to here and just maybe talk more loudly. So if you all stand up for just for a second. So this is called Qigong. It's based in the ancient Chinese system of kind of flow or qi within the body itself. And again, bring yourself in that kind of curious space. Feet are kind of shoulder width apart. Bend your knees a little bit. Your bum might stick out just a little bit at the back there. Your arms kind of at the sides like a gunslinger type thing. And just have that kind of relaxed feel and perspective there. And then we're going to slowly raise our hands up like a zombie. And just at about belly button level, you're going to bring your hands up to your armpits. And then you're going to release and put some tension into your hands. On the downstroke, it's like you're releasing the negative qi into the earth. And relax again. Just very smooth, like you're in water. You're in the middle of qi up to your armpits. And release by creating some tension and bending your knees in the downstroke there. Good. Up. Yeah. Just be very curious. Feel the energy in your body. Release. You're being surrounded by qi or the kind of cosmic energy all the time. And down. Nice. And again. There. Up. It's like you're changing the oil in the gas tank. Releasing the old oil into the earth. From Mother Earth to recycle it. And down. Wonderful. Okay, second exercise. So same position. We're going to start out by touching our pinkies together, pushing the energy out, turning it around, touching your thumb and second fingers together, creating a triangle, bringing the energy back into your pelvis. And down. Wonderful. Out. In. And release. Good. So you can offer out, bring that energy back into your pelvis, and release down. Good. Out. If you're watching this video, you can also do this. Right now, just bring yourself into that space. One more. Just being conscious of this wonderful energy that we have around us. And down. Good. Great. Okay. You can head back. So that's the overlap between the mind and getting kind of stressed and upset, in the body where we can actually practice relaxation and settle down our physiology and allow ourselves to heal and get through difficult treatments and convalesce, get strong again. Mind, it's really about acceptance. Really, it's a difficult issue to come to. But really, either we struggle with and are at war with reality, or we come to a space to say, this is the truth, this is my starting space. And as an analogy for us right now, so wherever you're at psychologically, however you're feeling today or this moment even, sore or frustrated or angry or whatever it is, that's okay. It's okay to be there. It's okay to experience that. And if you can give yourself that space to love yourself just as you are and not have to change things, and to actually embrace the difficult stuff and allow that to transform and to learn from it, I think it's a better space to be in. I guess I'll tell you a story about my friend Karen. We were very close in medical school, and afterwards we parted paths. And then several years later we started kind of emailing again, talking about our young families, kind of a once-a-year Christmas email. And then I got a call from her, it must be 6-7 years ago now. Got a call, an email saying, Rob, can you call me? And I immediately assumed that somebody in her family had a cancer diagnosis, and that they wanted to chat with me about body, mind, spirit, and all that stuff. And I got on the phone. It was actually her husband who answered the phone and told me that she had just been given a breast cancer diagnosis. And I was pretty upset talking on the phone. And when I was first chatting with her, she was just so calm and matter of fact. She was kind of settling me down, and not the other way around. And I was so incredibly awed in some sense by how calm she was. And she said, yeah, that's how it's been. And she had, people would say to her, Karen, you're going to beat this. And she was so realistic at the same time. She'd say, well, do you know what? Thank you. That's a really nice thing to say, but I don't know if I'm going to beat this or not, right? So she was like totally realistic and accepting all at the same time. And she finally had to email all of her friends to explain why she was in this kind of space of peace, yet finding a big lump underneath her armpit and so on. And so she's allowed me to share that email, which is in a book that we wrote called The Healing Circle, but I'll talk about that later. And she's talking about mortality, right? It's the elephant in the room for most people within the Western culture, right? We're scared of dying, we don't talk about it, and yet by looking at it, we can actually release or liberate ourselves into a much bigger space of so appreciating our lives because of the truth that we all have a limited time here. And she had done this incredibly quickly. It's like one of the very few people that was able to transform so quickly. And I'll just read from what she wrote. But once I managed to accept the reality of my mortality had always been there, I could accept that nothing fundamental in my life had really changed with this diagnosis. I'm still the same me. My life has not changed drastically or dramatically. I'm still here. I was not hit by a bus. My loved ones are still around me. Unbelievably, I can honestly say that I'm as happy now as I was 5 weeks ago. I am, even in this moment, missing a body part or two, hair about to fall out, completely and utterly whole. Right? She went on to say, and this allows me to see that the last few weeks and the year ahead is the first steps towards rather than a plunge from true wellness. Right? So there's this sense there. It's not the whole story though. Right? There's always tensions in life. I mean, the tension is how much exercise you need. I mean, do you do little? Do you do too much? Where's the balance point? So there's always tension between spirituality and proactivity, between getting and letting, doing and being. We're always running these tensions, and they're not going to go away. And so we might as well cherish this human experience because of the tensions. And I'll show you the tension here. She said, I suffered a couple days of despair after the diagnosis. So most people are freaked out for about 2 months afterwards. She had gone through this in about 2 days. But since then, I have known that I will be okay. Maybe not okay in a way that I would have defined it 5 weeks ago, but in a bigger sense. I felt that while I cannot be positive that I will beat this, I can be positive that I will have the courage to face what is ahead. I am positive that I will have the support from loved ones, the expertise from my doctors, and ultimately the grace from God to ensure that this turn of the road will not be a negative force in my life. And I believed all that and still believe that from deep within my soul. But in the past 2 weeks, something else has crept in. I'm starting to believe, or want to believe, that I will beat this in the conventional sense. I'm starting to demand it of myself and to ask it of God. There is a proportion of women who survive breast cancer in my stage, so why not me? So the point is that even though she's in this incredibly accepting and positive state, she's still being proactive, right? She changed her diet over right away. She really got the best care possible from her doctors. She's in this state of acceptance, but she's still being proactive. She's still wishing for it. So you can hold those at the same time. The second set of advice I would give you from a kind of mind perspective or psychological perspective is to give yourself some space, right? This is an opportunity for all of us to say, how do I want to live my life? Where do I want to put my precious energy? So whether you got another 2 years or 52 years to go, how do you want to live your life? Where do you want to put your energy? Where do you want to put your relationships? And so the advice is this: just say no. And there are 3 phases to saying no. You open your mouth, you say no, and then you close your mouth. And which phase do we kind of not do so well on?
Open it.
Yeah, opening it or closing it when we're going to say, well, but I'll do this. See, by saying no to the things that are unimportant, saying no to the unnecessary activities, that gives you the space to do the things that you love, right? So that's, I can't cover all of the psychological world. There's too much there. Just to say that to accept oneself and to love oneself is very, very, very powerful. And that when we're in that space of love and of peace, that is the physiology, that is the medicine that actually empowers the body as well. Yeah. And in spirituality, and I'm not here to preach in any way or form, whatever works for you is fine, but really some of the concepts around spirituality is that there can be this sense of wholeness, this sense of space, this sense of love, despite being in the midst of the turbulence, right? So you can be suffering psychologically and yet feel peaceful at the same time. It sounds so bizarre, but I've seen it too many times not to know it. And it's almost like it's the awareness of the preciousness of our life that is the peace, that is the joy. The awareness is that sense of being held. The awareness is that space. And here in Halifax, we have hurricanes on the beach. There are hurricanes in general. If you're walking on the beach, that's like a cancer diagnosis, right? You're walking there, and at the psychological level, the wind is just howling straight at you. You're being sprayed in the face. The huge waves are there, crashing on the beach, can pull you away, soaked to the bone. And that's the psychological turbulence that a cancer diagnosis can be. And yet, the same hurricane perceived from a mile in the sky or 40 feet below the water can be very, very peaceful. Very, very peaceful, like the rippling on the surface or that wonderful swirling cloud there. And that, in a sense, is the spiritual level, right? Or people who've said to me, like this old guy was kind of clutching onto his chest in one of the support groups saying, I'm so worried about my daughter. She's into drugs. It's just all these things happening in life. I got a cancer diagnosis now. And so he's like clutching and looking raw. And yet he's saying at the same time, he's saying, and yet I feel this sense of peace. I feel this sense of joy. Or another woman who had advanced kind of blood cancer was grieving her loss, grieving her shattered life. Life was like this, and now I'm really, really sick. She said, yet I feel like I'm being held by arms. I feel like I'm walking through the desert and somebody's holding your hand out to me. Right? So we can have that sense of peace, that sense of calm. And you can, by slowing down, taking care of yourself, reducing your stress, you can actually become more aware of the beauty of life. Right? So you can actually facilitate that awareness. Whatever works for you, and whatever context works for you, you can actually bring that sense of the spirit, the issues of love and peace and joy and gratitude right into the psychological that percolates down again into the physical, feeling stronger. So there's that capacity to bring down the consciousness into your physical life, into your relationships, into what you love. Does it make a difference? Can you actually improve your chances? I think so. I think for any one person, things can work out perfectly. Now, what they've actually shown, it's actually kind of interesting. They looked at kind of, for instance, spontaneous remission rates. There's been hundreds of articles have been written about this. Patients who are basically told you don't have a chance, and yet they're fine 30 years later. And it's interesting because there are certain kind of personality characteristics to the people that do well. So the big one was acceptance. Like they're willing to just accept, well, this is my situation. I'm just going to make the best of it. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to do whatever I can. So that was acceptance. Authenticity, right? So some sense when you slow down, you can listen to that heart. Listen to your intuition. It's there all the time, right? And you can tap into it in different ways. But there's some sense that you're being guided, and if you can listen to it and kind of resonate with your own spirit, or however you want to say it, that is the more powerful thing than trying to take advice from society or any one particular group. So you listen to your heart, authenticity. But then there's also autonomy, which means you're actually going to be proactive. You're actually going to do something, right? So I believe in myself. I'm going to take care of myself, but I'm actually now going to put it into action. So those are the three major things. There are other factors around it. To me, I don't put my energy there. I guess it's easy for me to say, but it's like cured or not cured, living extremely long time versus not living extremely long time. There are some things that we can't control in life. It's kind of like the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it's a bit of a paradox. But the people that do extremely well, they don't see recurrence or even death as a failure. They put their energy into the things they can control, right? Their attitude, their relationships, their love of life. And I think when you put your energy there, that can have a very powerful effect on the actual physical outcomes, even though I don't concentrate there. I concentrate on living my life fully there. And I've seen too many people who've done well in that space. And so what I say is, I know you're doing, I think you're on the right track when your question changes from how can I live to how can I love. I think that's really where I put my energy. Great issues. So for instance, we run retreats for people affected by cancer. And sometimes you have somebody who's just been diagnosed with cancer sitting beside somebody who's very, very, very sick from the cancer. And you would think that it would just scare the socks off somebody who's just been diagnosed. But you know what we realize is, no matter where you are in your diagnosis, the person's still alive. They're still full of life, they're still laughing, they're still connecting, and that's a real inspiration. So that story is this guy who's living his life fully, whether he's got 2 weeks to go or however else long to go. Well, we're all different too, right? So it's not to say that we're going to come into that peaceful state and be like him. Some people, have the fighting spirit where they want to be, the cancer here and kind of do absolutely everything possible. And that's fine too. I worry that if you're so busy struggling, fighting against life, it takes a lot of energy that you could be putting into other things. So that's my concern about that. The other one is doctors can't tell what's going to happen. I think that's another kind of meta message for all of you. So no matter what stage you're at, you can always do better than the average because you're being quoted the average. You're not a statistic, you're a person. So that's a really kind of take-home point from all. And just to bounce back, that oftentimes it's more difficult to be the family member than to be the person who's got a diagnosis, right? In fact, the studies also show that as well. So each family and each situation is different, but it is really tough to be the family member. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to lay the tears out too. I didn't really touch on it in the talk very much, but it's so powerful just to be yourself and just to be open. And then listening actually is the therapy. We don't have to correct a person's problems. Just have to acknowledge, listen, try to understand them. So, and that's why I like that expression, just being open and, feeling sad or whatever else is happening. So.